This is being recorded. Hi, this is Karen A. from Jerusalem. Welcome. I'm here in Israel, where we're in a very intense security situation, but like our program says, we'll go to any length. Half measures availed us of nothing. So while I'm stockpiling water and food to take my kids down to my safe room, my calendar popped up that I have the amazing Afro-Euro Reco12 meeting that happens every week, Friday at 8 a.m. Hopefully it'll shine some light into the world as me and my people are trying to promote the powers of good, prevent nuclear destruction. I'll leave any outside opinions out of this. But it is my duty to be here and kick off this meeting, but it's also my duty to get downstairs into safety because there are going to be air raid sirens here any second. How crazy is that? So I want to take a moment to pray for all of those in danger, potential danger. I want to take a moment to pray for the addict who's still suffering, and then I'll go ahead and introduce this meeting and our special guest. Higher power, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Your will, not mine, be done. Welcome to Reco12. Reco12 is a family of recovery resources. We bring together fellows with all addictions, all afflictions, who have found recovery and hope through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We are a group of travelers who are living in the solution one day at a time. Many of us working with others, doing service, trusting higher power, and making a difference day in, day out. If you want to check out our recorded Reco12 podcast, you can hear from gamblers, debtors, sex and love addicts, workaholics, anorexics, bulimics, compulsive overeaters, codependents, alanons, alcoholics, cocaine and narcotics anonymous people, and some of us have multiple addictions. Like yours truly, we have all found respite, relief, and light in this beautiful program with many brothers and sisters, some of them real, some of them virtual, all over the world. I come to you here on this weekly podcast to highlight one of our fellows who's trudging the road, shoulder to shoulder, in action, day in and day out. Today, I bring my friend Louise, who will be sharing her experience, strength, and hope about her journey in addiction and her recovery through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you would like to contribute a seventh tradition to help host this meeting, you could do so at reco12.com/support. If you'd like to speak on this meeting, you could go to reco12.com and upload a speak pipe, or you can get in touch with Justin, whose information is on the website. Justin is the founder of Reco12, or with me. I will put my number in the chat. Without further ado, Louise, welcome, and thank you for joining us and spreading the light during these trying times.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Karen, I just want to say my thoughts and prayers are with yourself, your family, and everybody else in Jerusalem. Yeah. I'd like to start the meeting with the lay aside prayer. I'll share with the lay aside prayer. God, please lay aside everything I think I know about this disease, these steps, this program, this book, myself, and especially you, God, so I may have an open mind, a new experience with this disease, these steps, this program, this book, myself, and especially with you, God. Amen. So yeah, my name's Louise W, and I am an addict of many things. I have been in the rooms of recovery for just coming up 7.5 years. I've been completely abstinent from all mode and mind altering substances since that. I I'm a codependent, I'm a love addict. I can also be a food addict at times and an alanon. Just a little bit of background. I grew up in a really, really dysfunctional family. My mum was an addict of many things. There was lots of abuse in the house. There was neglect, there was sexual abuse, there was emotional abuse. And as a result of that, I didn't know who I was. And I adopted many coping strategies in order to keep myself safe, in order to fit in. At the time, I didn't know that's what I'd done. I was just trying to live life and to get by. I often felt I didn't fit in anywhere. I often felt I didn't belong. You know, I had that really, really low self-esteem. I would try and fit into different groups, and all was well for a short period of time until that wasn't working for me, that particular group of people. I would then move into another group, and I would create this persona of who I thought these people wanted me to be. And that's how I lived my life. You know, I lived my life like that. I started taking substances at a very young age. I was very, very young. I'd say 12, maybe 12. And, you know, when I started taking substances, that helped me. That helped me be the person I wanted to be. It gave me confidence. It helped me get out of myself. You know, I hear the term, let's get out of our head. And for me, that term, getting out of my head, literally meant that. Because taking substances helped me get out of my thinking, helped me get away from myself. You know, it was an escapism from me. It wasn't until I came into the program that I realised that substances wasn't the problem. It was me that was the problem in my thinking. You know, I've picked a topic today of learning to live, learning to love. You know, and that essentially is what I'm doing. You know, that is essentially what I'm doing. I'm learning to live and I'm learning to love, because me on my own, I don't know how to do that. The book, I use my recovery from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the book, you know, the book does say, you know, self-will run riot. And without me having a connection with God, I am self-will run riot. I don't know how to live. I don't know how to love. And it's only by doing the work that I'm learning to do that. And I'm still learning to do that. I'm a work in progress. You know, I've gone through the work many times, essentially to keep me connected to the program, to get a deeper understanding of who I am and to get a deeper connection with God. God has to be the centre of my world nowadays, you know, and one of my main issues is codependency. I make men my higher power. And I've done that for many years, and I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that that's not how you lived. You know, now I have to make God the centre of my universe. God has to be my higher power, and I have to go to God in order to love, in order to live, in order to recover. I started off my journey in Narcotics Anonymous, and I was in that fellowship for around 3 years. I just always felt like there was something missing. There was something missing, and I knew I was codependent. And when COVID hit, I managed to get into the rooms of Codependents Anonymous. Went through the work there. Got abandoned by my sponsor at the end of that work, and that was quite a difficult period because I just felt really lost and left. Again, I still felt that there was something missing from my recovery, and I hit a brick wall. You know, I wanted to kill myself in recovery, and I was like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. I did not know what that more meant for me. I really didn't, but I was at a place where I'm like, if this is recovery, then I'm not 100% sure I want it. I didn't feel fulfilled. My spirit didn't feel lifted. Inside, I wanted to die. And I was pretending I was okay, and I really wasn't. And I met a lady who introduced, I asked the lady to be my sponsor. I met her on a sponsorship workshop, and she introduced me to the big book. And I have to be really honest, this is where my relationship with God really started. You know, there was a lot of people in the rooms who didn't know what they was doing, and that's no reflection on them personally. It's they've got what's been given to them, and they can only give what's been given to them. But that didn't work for me, you know. And I was introduced to the big book by a beautiful lady, and this lady holds a special place in my heart. If you're on the spiritual gangster meetings, I'm sure you will all have come across Eliza. Beautiful, beautiful spirit. And she really sort of took me into the big book and helped me understand what I suffer with. You know, I suffer with the disease of addiction. I have an alcoholic mind. You know, and the only way to overcome that is by a spiritual way of life. You know, and that's what I try and live in today. I try and live in a spiritual way of life. By doing the work, I've come to learn and understand myself a bit better. That what I suffer with, I need God. I need God in my life. And for me, learning to live and learning to love, I have to do that with God. On my own, I'm full of defects of character. And I hurt people. You know, I hurt people. Even in recovery, I hurt people. If I'm not coming from a place of God, I hurt people. Because I have this selfish nature of me. It's all about me. I want, I need this, I need that. I want this, I want that. You know, and I do that with people in my life. You know, I recently met a man a few months ago, and he was a beautiful soul, and I ended up really hurting him by doing my demanding. I want, I need this from you. I need you to treat me like this. I need you to do this so I'm okay. You know, and it ended, and, you know, I had to go and look at myself, and I was already looking at myself. I mean, I was in step 4 at the time anyway.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M. and me, Justin B., on Reco12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M., streaming now on your favorite podcast platform.
And I believe God gave me this person to show me how I show up. You know, and me on my own, I'm not a very nice person. I'm not a very nice person, and I have to have God. And I have to ask God to help me remove all these defects of character from me, you know, so that I can show up in God's will and I can be kind and loving. You know, I have to have God to help me do all that, because on my own, I can't do that. I don't know how to live. I don't know how to behave. All I know on my own is how to survive. You know, and I do all this stuff, and it's not because I need to learn how to deal with, I don't need to learn how to deal with disappointment. I don't know how to learn to deal with the negative things in life, because I know how to do that. I know how to survive. I'm here because I don't know how to live. I don't know how to deal with happiness. I don't know how to deal with kindness. I don't know how to deal with joy. I don't know how to just be. I do not know how to just be in life, you know, and I have to have a connection with God to show me how to do that. You know, I have to turn to God. I have to pause all throughout the day and ask God, what do I do in this situation? How do I respond in this situation? You know, because I don't know. And if I don't turn to God, I can create chaos. I'm a typical chaos creator and I don't even know it. Yeah, I don't even know it. I'm running around trying to get my needs met, trying to get what I think I want, what I think I need. And I'm harming everybody in my life. You know, this program helps me love. It helps me show up in kindness and compassion. Only if I ask for that. I have to ask God on a daily basis to help me show up in that way. I have to ask God to show me how to live. I have to ask God to show me how to see the truth. One of my main defects is delusion. You know, I have delusional thinking. I can't afford to think. I can't afford to sit and think about things because I end up delusional. I end up thinking all sorts of things that's not true, and I believe the lie. You know, I believe the lie. I believe in what my ego wants me to believe because I have a liar that lives within me that wants to run the whole show. And in doing that, in my turn, believing that, I end up alone, I end up isolated. You know, this program gives me the ability to have deep, meaningful relationships. It allows me to have connection. One of the biggest gifts I've received from living in this program and living this way of life is a relationship with my children. It's grown so much. You know, it really has. I recently learned I can be quite jealous of my eldest daughter. She's living a really good life and, you know, she's doing things. She's out there, she's living. She's got a really good relationship with a really nice man. And, you know, I was quite jealous and envious of that. And it was a real shock to my system that I was really jealous and envious of that. But in turn, because of my jealousy, I wasn't saying to her when she was going off and doing all these things, traveling, seeing the world, doing different things. I wasn't saying, have a nice time. I wasn't saying, you know, go and enjoy this, do this. And it was a real eye-opener for me. Since I've realised that, I'm like really on that with her now. And I'm like, yeah, you go and live your life. Really enjoy it. Have a great time. Stay safe. I love you. You know, and that's a gift in itself that I'm able to show up in this way for her. You know, she's coming up to 24 and she's just about to move out and she's moving to another city. She's got a job. And I always thought she's got a job in another city. She's moving in with a boyfriend and they're saving for a house, but they're going travelling for a month in January. And they have got a deposit for a house, but they're waiting until after they're travelling and then they're going to buy a house. And I've been able to say, yeah, go. Because I'm codependent, you see. And I feared this day coming of her leaving. But the reality is, it's not like that. It's a beautiful experience. She's leaving. She's going. And I'm like, yeah, go. Go. Go and enjoy it. Go and live. Go and love, you know, experience love, be happy. And once you get your own place, I will come and visit you and stay over with you. You know, and that's a gift just in itself, to be able to do that and be there for her in that way. She was really frightened of leaving. She was frightened that I wasn't going to cope in the house. I wasn't going to cope financially without her contributing to the running of the house. And it's like, she doesn't need to have those fears. She needs to live. She needs to love. I know God will provide what I need when I need it. And I have to rely wholly on God for that. You know, and I'm doing that today. I'm doing that. You know, I've had to really, really enlarge my spiritual life, like the book tells me. Things happen in life. I was in a really abusive relationship and I didn't even know how abusive it was. And that was in recovery. You know, the man I was with, he had sex with me while I was sleeping. He convinced me it was my own trauma because I've been raped. And because I was that codependent, I made him my God. You know, and I allowed that to be my narrative. I allowed that to be my narrative. It was my trauma that I was blanking out in sex. You know, that's not the reality of it. The reality is he had sex with me when I was asleep, you know. And with God, I managed to pluck up the courage and end that relationship. And I've since found out, I've spoken to his ex. I didn't go looking for her, she came to me. And I've since found out that was a pattern of his behaviour. He has done that to every woman he has been with. You know, and God allowed me to walk away from that relationship and protect me. I also found out in the midst of that breakup that I was replaying out my childhood environment in that relationship. Because I was brought up in a relationship, in a household where there was sexual abuse, and we had to pretend it didn't happen, you know, and that was a pattern of behaviour that I had adopted. So I had then brought that pattern of behaviour into my life. And I carried that out in recovery, you know, and God allowed me to see that when the time was right, when I was ready to learn that about myself. And I wasn't ready to allow God to allow me to allow that behaviour pattern and that thinking pattern to leave, you know, and it has left now. You know, what I've learned in recovery is God gives me what I need when I need it. God removes patterns of behaviour from me when I need them removed. God removes my defects of character from me when I need them removed. I remember coming into the rooms thinking, yep, I'm going to come in, I'm going to work the 12 steps, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to live my life. You know, I thought it was going to be a destination, ending the 12 steps. And, you know, it's not a destination, it's a journey. It's a journey of love, it's a journey of light. You know, I'm going to continue on this journey, God-given, for the rest of my life, hopefully. And I hope God allows me to remain sober and abstinent throughout that journey. Because like I previously said, for me, it's not about the drugs, it's not about the alcohol. It never was. There was my solution to living. Because I didn't know how to live. There was my solution to be able to cope with life. Because I didn't know how. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. I didn't know how to feel emotions and just be with them. I didn't know how to express emotions. I didn't know what emotions were. You know, I can identify my emotions today and I can regulate them and I can sit with them without expecting another person to fix me. And for me, that's a beautiful gift. You know, I don't have to have somebody else to fix me. I can rely fully on God. And I know that whatever it is I'm feeling, whatever it is I'm going through, I know that this is part of my journey and nothing's wasted. And I accept that today. You know, I accept the negatives in life. I accept the positives. I turn inwards to God. I always ask God, what do I need to learn from this? What are you trying to teach me? You know, I've just gone through the steps with another beautiful woman, Donna. Well, I'm in step 7 at the moment, and I'm sat in step 7, and she gave me a list of defects, and I couldn't understand one of them, delusion. And I kept asking God, what is it about delusion? You know, I'm very delusional around other people and their availability to me. And God has shown me that again. And this has just been another lesson for me to look and rely on God. You know, I can rely on other people to meet my needs. No, I need to rely on God. God can meet my needs. God can help me and show me how I can meet my needs. Other people don't have the capacity to meet my needs. Other people are trying to meet their own needs and get their own needs met. You know, I have a beautiful, beautiful relationship with God nowadays. And it's only been the past, I'd say, 4 years or so in recovery that has happened, because I came in recovery. I didn't have a relationship with God for the first 3 years. I would not recommend that. You know, if there's anybody new listening to this, ask people. You know, get yourself out there. Ask people, how do I cultivate a relationship with a God of my understanding? How do I turn inwards? Get people's experience. You know, we are all here for each other, and we are all here to support each other and help each other. You know, and that is part of the program, step 12, being available for others. I'm available to share my strength, my hope, my experience with anybody. You know, if anybody reaches out to me, I will share whatever I can. A really good way that's helped me develop a relationship with God is two-way prayer. You know, I attended two-way prayer meetings daily for many, many times. I don't always attend them nowadays, just because I don't have time, but I do practice two-way prayer regularly. You know, I pray all day long. Praying is talking to God, and meditating is listening to God. You know, that helps me listen to God. I get my answers I need in the quiet, in the stillness. This helps me learn to live. This helps me learn to love. I try and show up today in spiritual principles: love, honesty, integrity. Yeah, there's lots of spiritual principles. Listening's a really big one for me, because I found I never used to listen, or I would listen to respond. What I've learned to do now is listen to hear. I listen to hear the person. I don't need to respond to everything a person tells me. What I've learned, some people just need to be listened to. They just need to be listened to. Nobody's ever listened to them. You know, and that's okay. And if somebody wants me to respond or give my view on that, they'll tell me, or I can ask them, do you want me to respond what I've heard here? You know, do you want some feedback on this? And if they say no, that's okay. But I also let them know, I've heard you. This is a safe space for you. Because I'm here to serve others. I'm not here to serve myself. Serving myself does not work. You know, I've learned that. Serving myself does not work. I get fulfilled by being of service to others. It fills my cup. And then with my full cup, I can give that to others. It gives me gifts I didn't even know was possible. You know, I do try and work this 12-step program to the best of my ability. I don't always get it right, you know, because I'm still an addict in recovery. But I do try and do this to the best of my ability. I have a big understanding nowadays of what I suffer with. I have a big relationship with God. My God wasn't working. I had to find a bigger God, you know. I had to find a God of my own understanding. And I had to go within to do that. I can't search for God outside of me. I can't search for your God or use your God. I have to find my God. And the only way I can do that is by turning inwards. And I have to sort of turn inwards now and rely on God. I have to get out of my head and into my heart so that I can show up. So that I can show up in love and humility. Yeah, humility is a really big thing for me. You know, that comes in lessons. That comes in lessons. You know, the woman I'm doing some work with, she always says, "Yep, I think I'm some big such and much," and that's true. I've always thought I'm some big such and much. You know, and a couple of years ago, I was going around. I had quite a lot of knowledge of the big book. I could recite the big book, and I'm going around, you know, reciting the big book, thinking I am this big such and much. You know, and people would turn on me. You know, and that gave me humility. I had to realise, no, I am not this. I am a vessel. I am here to do God's work, and I am a vessel for God. I have to arrest that ego of mine, you know, and I have to show up in love. I have to show up in light. I have to show up in honesty, integrity. I have to show up. I have to be helpful. I have to be of service. I have to be here and available. You know, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I just want to thank, you know, the service team for asking me to come and share. I really, really hope I've helped somebody, and I hope somebody gets a message for what I've shared. Yeah, and if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to ask away. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. What a powerful message of recovery, of connecting to God, of being available to other people, of rehabilitating your mind, your spirit, your soul, being there for your family and others. Anyone want to pop in and ask a question? Just go ahead and unmute yourself. We'll take questions. Go ahead. Does anyone have a question?
Thank you so much. I just want to know a little bit about how you respond. Thank you so much for your service. It was great to hear you, Louise. Sorry I was late. I had an appointment that ran late. Can you share a little bit about how you do healthy sponsorship, and how you balance it, and your experience being a sponsor? You did share about it, but I want to know more about also being a sponsor, if you don't mind.
Hey Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss Reco12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to Reco12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform.
Thank you, Brindy, so much for your share. Your question, sorry. How do I sponsor? I only sponsor through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous nowadays. And that's not to say that other books are not helpful. They are, but for me, the book of Alcoholics Anonymous gave me what I needed. It helped me to get to a spiritual, it helped me to live a spiritual life. So I only sponsor through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Healthy sponsorship. I am not here to tell anybody what to do. I'm here to lead you to your God. I have to bring you to your God. And that's my way of sponsoring. I can't do this program for anybody. You know, I can only share what I do, you know, to help me get to God. The only solution, I believe, for addiction is a spiritual solution. So if you're not cultivating a relationship with God and living by this program, you're not going to recover. So I'm there to teach the program and to help people gain a relationship with their own God. My experience of sponsoring, as you mentioned, since I've come to the big book, I've had a really good experience of sponsoring. You know, and each sponsor have gave me what I needed at the right time. And I'm still in touch with all, you know, I'm working with one at the moment, but I'm still in touch with all three. And they are part of my God squad. I go to them if I need something. You know, each one of them has something different to give me, and I need that. I need something from, you know, all the people in my life. Sponsoring before that, before I came to the big book, I was being sponsored by people who didn't really know what they was doing. So that was, I wasn't getting recovered. I was not getting recovered. And like I've said, it's no reflection of the people that I was working with, as they only give me what had been given to them. Yeah. Did you want me to cover anything else? Sorry, because I know it was quite a long question you asked there.
Thanks. Do you just wait for people to ask you? Do you like try to actively recruit sponsees? Do they just come to you? Do you feel like good?
You know,
confident sponsoring?
Yes. Yeah, it's a bit of both. You know, I do make the approach. I make the approach. I will always sort of contact newcomers, you know, offer help. But essentially, it's down to whoever God wants me to help. You know, it's whoever God wants me to help. I will always make the approach. If I'm in meetings, I will approach people. You know, if I'm on online meetings, I will approach, you know, strike up conversations with people. If there's newcomers about, I take their numbers. I don't wait for them to contact me. I take their numbers and I contact them, because I just know when I was new about, I was so full of fear. And just even picking the phone up to somebody new is so daunting. So I always take people's numbers and contact them. Always. I've got to let people know that they are not alone here, that there is people here who understand what they're going through, and all we want to do is help. My recovery depends on me helping others. So, yeah.
And anyone else want to comment with a question? Brian, if you have another question, feel free to keep them going. I know you always have good questions.
Thanks. Sorry to hear about your unfortunate experiences. I just want to know a little bit how your relationships changed, because you mentioned being codependent, and how have they transformed in you know, in recovery. And do you just feel like you just get your fulfillment from God, or like how have your relationships also changed? Thank you, Louise.
This is really funny, you know, how have my relationships transformed? I don't fully know the answer to that. All I know is they have transformed, and it's not been done by me. I know that. I don't have that power. My relationship with my mum's always been strained. I remember going through the work and the step 4 work and, looking at my resentments towards my mum. My mum kept me in a household with her husband who was abusing me. And, I had to ask myself, have I done this? I kept my children in a home where they was at risk because I stayed with a man who was sexually abusing myself. Never abused my children, but I didn't know he was going to do that. He wasn't going to do that. I have had to find a lot of compassion for my mum. Some would think in that moment, it gave me compassion for my mum because I seen she was sick. She was spiritually sick, as was I. So something just happened within that moment, and I have compassion for my mum now. I see her codependence ran through her. She had made her husband her higher power, and she did not know any other way. And I have to have compassion for that. And then I'm very grateful because I've found a way out, And it makes me sad that my mum didn't find a way out. And my mum's a very poorly woman now, physically poorly. And yeah, it's very sad. It's very, very sad the way she's lived her life. She's had no quality of life. And she's, even in her later years now, she's still got no quality of life. And I have to thank myself very, very fortunate because I found a way out. And I'm living in that way out now. I've been able to break them generational cycles. Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky. Has anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, go ahead and take them. And if not, pray us out. We just got an alert here, so I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you, Louise, for your service. Thank you, everyone. Join us every Friday at 8 a.m. GMT +2. And please pray for our safety here in Israel and all around the world.
Thank you, Karen.
Louise, it sounds like you developed a lot of compassion and you don't have any resentment to your mother. Is that true?
Yeah, I don't have resentments to my mum anymore, no. And that's been removed by God. Absolutely not me.
Did you do any footwork to have it removed?
Did I do any footwork to have it removed?
Yeah, I'm saying, pray for her and write out 10 steps, do turnarounds or whatever.
It happened in the 4th step. It happened in the 4th step. It happened in the 4th step. I didn't even have to say the prayer. It just happened. It just naturally fell away from me.
That's really beautiful. I would be, unless there's a siren, until there's a siren, I would be happy to hear a little bit how you do your routine with your program, like your steps 10 and 11, like how you do your resentments when they come out, whatever, when you disturb, what you do, how you do your 10 steps, how you do your morning, your evening, your step 11. And I'm assuming you do some service besides sponsoring in terms of step 12. I know you've done service on our 2A prayer meeting. Okay, thanks.
Hey Reco12 Spearheads, if our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Reco12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at reco12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Reco12 Spearhead.
Yes, sir. Step 10s are when resentments come up. I always write them out on paper because it helps me see the truth. Step 11, I do a nightly review every night. But as part of my step 11, just asking the questions. Sometimes I do it on a nap, sometimes I do it on paper, but I sit with God. I sit with God. You know, it's a time for me to get reconnected back with God. If I've harmed anybody, I need to make amends straight away, which I always try to do that. I try to talk it through with somebody who's spiritually well, you know, and then make amends if needed. My morning routines, you know, my morning routines changed. I used to do two-way prayer every day. I don't do it every day nowadays. I do it if I'm feeling a bit discombobulated and I feel like I need to get with God here because I don't know what's going on. But I start my day with my step 3 prayer, my step 7 prayer, asking for defects to be removed and asking for them to be replaced with the opposite. You know, I always do that with my defects. I ask them to be removed, but I list my defects. I don't just say the step 7 prayer, I list my defects and ask them to be replaced. I'm doing it a little bit different at the moment. Let me just find it because I'll just sort of quickly read it to you.
And also, if you don't mind, also how you do yours. That like when you have a 10-step, what do you actually write out? Like, do you answer certain questions? Do you follow a certain form?
Okay,
Your
so
10
yeah.
steps, I mean.
Yeah. So with my step 7 prayer, I say, God, please remove my abandoning people behavior and show me how to have connection. God, please remove my abrupt behavior and show me how to be thoughtful and gradual. You know, so that's the way. And then I come in, as soon as I finish my list, I come in with the step 7 prayer after that. With my step 10s, I've started doing my inventories a different way, just with the way my sponsor has just gave it to me. It's quite deep and quite lengthy. So I go through the seven areas of self. So my self-esteem. I look at all the 7 areas of self from the big book. So the self-esteem, let me just get my book out and I'll tell you what they are. So I go through my sex relations, my self-esteem, my security, my personal relationships, my pride. I go through all of them, but I also look at what's underneath it, what fears attached to it. What am I frightened of? It helps me see the truth. The column 4 I do very, very differently. And I've just started doing it this way, you know, and I found it's a really good way to help me see the truth. It's certain questions. It's quite a lengthy step 10. It is quite a lengthy inventory process, but it's deep and it gets to the truth. I'm happy to share that with you, Brindy, if you want me to.
Okay, that would be great. I mean, I guess if anyone else has any questions for Louise, they can ask them, or if you have any last thoughts, I guess we can pause for a minute and see.
Rivki, did you want to ask, sorry, is that how you say your name? Did you want to ask a question? I did see you come off mute.
Yes, thank you so much. I only came on at the end. I'm at work and I just heard the end of it. But I wanted to know, when you were talking about how everything changed with your relationship to your mother, did you, like for me, I just know like page 552 in the big book, you know, doing that prayer for 14 days has helped me. But I was just like wondering, like you said, when you did the 4th step, that's when you had the turnaround for the compassion. So I was just wondering, like, what changed in the sense, like, what was, how should I phrase that? Like, which, like, how did it work for you in the sense that you felt that you had that turnaround?
Because I could see that I was no different to my mum.
Mm-hmm.
I could see I was no different to my mum. I'd allowed somebody into my home who was sexually abusive, and I'd allowed him into my home around my children. The difference is my mum didn't leave. I left. I managed to get out. I could see how difficult it could have been for my mum to get out without a program, because I wouldn't have been able to do that without a program. I don't know what happened within that moment. Something changed within my perspective on that and my thinking, and I just forgive my mum in that moment, you know. And the compassion came. I didn't keep trying to pray around it. I didn't keep doing this. This is a resentment that has come up. I've done the work 6 times. This resentment has come up every time. And in the past, I have prayed. and I've had some relief from it, but it's always come back. This time, my perspective changed within that. My thinking changed, my approach to it. And I just don't know. I don't have an explanation for that. God did that for me, and God removed that. That's the only explanation I can give you.
Were you praying for that, or that just happened?
It just
doing
happened.
The work?
It just happened. It just happened.
It's beautiful.
It just fall away. It just fall away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Louise,
Thank you so much.
Louise, can you tell us a drop about your kids, like how that relationship's changed, or how your recovery affected your mothering? I don't know anything about your kids or you being a mother.
My children, I mean, that's a work in progress. My children come to me nowadays. They come to me for advice, which is beautiful in itself. You know, we was always at loggerheads before.
How old are they?
24, 22 and 19. We was always arguing, always at loggerheads. I was the dictator. I'm the hierarchy of this family. So I am going to be the dictator, and you are going to do as I say, not as I do. And that's changed. My son called me a couple of days ago. I've been away with my friends. This is another beautiful thing. I've gone away with my friends who I grew up with. They all drink, and I've gone away with them for birthdays, and I've enjoyed myself. I didn't have any urge to drink whatsoever. At times they annoyed me because I was getting too drunk, but I went away and I enjoyed myself, and I was there and I was present. While I'm away, my 22-year-old son rang me for some advice. One of his friends has been texting pictures to a boy, and it's all come out. And my son rang me for advice on how to approach this with his friend. You know, and I'm just like, wow, it was big. It's a big thing. My son shuts down, you know, he doesn't come to me. My son smokes weed, but he come to me for advice on how to deal with this. And all I said to him was, just be soft and gentle and let him know you're there for him. And if he is gay, so what? You know, it's not an issue. You know, just let him know that you're a safe space and that you're soft, you're gentle, and you can be there for him. And if he doesn't want to talk about it, that's okay. If he can't admit it, that's also okay, but just let him know that you're there. And I was very grateful that my son came to me for advice. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Unless anyone else wants to ask anything or give any other comment, that was such a beautiful to hear. Then, you know, pray us out now or whatever you want.
Okay. Does anybody else want to ask any questions? Okay, so I'm just going to say I'm very grateful for you holding this space and the questions you've asked me. I'm very grateful to have been able to be here, and I really hope somebody has gotten something from the share. I will pop my number in the chat if anybody wants to talk to me at any point. I am available. Right. Okay. So I am available on WhatsApp. If anybody wants to chat, or anybody does think of any questions I have later on. Okay, and I'm going to take us out with the prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen.